All right. Welcome back to another episode of Gecko Exchange podcast. Unfortunately, Anthony might be here, he might not. We'll see. He's doing a promo for Monster Box enclosures. So you guys make sure you guys are doing that, checking it out. Monster Box enclosure. I believe what it is. He's on Palm Street right now, showing stuff off. So shout out to my guy. And then Marcus, he's doing it. He's doing it as well with Ant right now. So shout out to both of them guys right there. But today, we got a nice episode for you guys. We're gonna talk about two geniuses of geckos that really don't get much love in the community. I don't know why. They're adorable. I love them both. I have at least one species of each. So we're going to be talking about some Pachydactylus and some Leucasium. I know they both come from arid regions. They're both fascinating. Their adaptation. And hopefully they just gain some more popularity in this hobby. But today joining me is Joffrey. He works with many Pachydactylus and Leucasium. And Joffrey, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, actually. We had a very difficult week. I have two kids, and over here it's like the flu season. But
Yeah,
today was a great day. How are you
nice,
doing?
nice. We're getting ready for my girlfriend. Her kid has a birthday party today, so literally after I get done with
Awesome.
this, yeah, I gotta go jump over there and go do birthday stuff, right? And then yesterday was my kid's birthday, so it's been a birthday weekend. Good having the kids, and sometimes but then like you said, they get sick, they carry all kinds of germs, and because they hang around other kids, and then they bring it home. So then you got to battle it. So for people that don't know you, how did you get into reptiles? What was like your origin story? What led you down this road to working with all these crazy geckos?
Well, when I was a little kid, I had a little fella at school, and he bought some salamandra with him. He found them pretty close at a small cabin where he goes to during the weekend. And you know what? I was just sold. I saw these animals and I knew that it would be a big part of my life forever. So I convinced my mother to buy some Cynops orientalis. And after that, it just kept snowballing. Yeah, I kept buying new species, trying different things. So I think it really got serious when I was like 14 years old. I started breeding different types of anoles and, of course, some leopard geckos. You know how it goes with these first timer species. I've been around since that, and I don't know why, but there's something about geckos that I find really intriguing. So I just keep going further and further into this group of animals.
So let's kind of get into this. For the people that don't know about like Pachydactylus and Leucasium, where do they come from?
The genus Pachydactylus comes from Africa. There are about 60 species, give or take. It depends a bit on who you ask. They came from kind of more the arid regions, like you already told the listeners. And Lucasium species, they came from Australia. So they're in the hobby for a very long time, for many generations. There are about 15 species, if I remember correctly. They used to be grouped together with Diplodactylus, which is another
Yeah.
genus that most people really know about, but they're still quite different. You can see it in how they look visually and also in the way they behave.
hmm Nice. So, what are some of those unique physical behavioral adaptations these geckos have like developed? No, through that desert living. Like, what have you noticed working with them? Like their, like I said, those. Because I know, like with my, I have Diplodactylus, I have Galeatus, and I've noticed that they like to hide in all kinds of stuff. Like I have like shavings of like different parts of trees in there, and they love to go into that stuff. I've even seen them like climb a lot. But what about for like the Lucasium? Do they like to do a lot of climbing? And I mean the Pachydactylus as well.
Well, the Lucasium seem to climb a little bit, just like the Diplodactylus species, and they
hmm
hide under a bunch of different types of stuff. You can put in a piece of wood or a piece of cork bark, just some dry leaves. They'll love everything. I have noticed though that Pachydactylus species they love some more stone-like structures. So
Okay.
like ceramic saucers, for example, or if I use a background, then Then I add some gypsum on it and some sand to really give it the feel like it's a rock. And they really prefer that over, for example, wooden structures.
Okay.
So that's something that I really focus on with these Pachydactylus. I'm not really sure why that is, but they are also, well, many species of Pachydactylus are also found between crevices of stones or piles of stones.
Okay. Yeah.
There are some species that also climb the shrubs, such as Rugosus, but many are found in these stony areas,
Hmm.
to put it like that. Except, of course, these really species that really love the sandy desert, like the Vanzili, Pachydactylus vanzili and Reingate. They are true specialists from sand areas.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got what is it? Which Pachydax? I have Pachydaxus macrolepis.
A cool species.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely a very they. I didn't know they squeal, so that caught me off guard. Like I was doing my little spraying, my misting, and they just would squim. Like, whoa, whoa, okay, didn't know about that one. Like my buddies did not tell me when they sent me it that they make
Really?
noises because no, I mean I'm cool with the noises. It just threw me off. Like I have like Cerdadactylus and they make noise all the time, so I'm used to them. But when they started squeaking, I'm like, what the hell was that? No, because most of the time they just kind of act like almost dead. Like they just kind of lay there. Like even when you pick them up, they're like, "I'm gonna stay stiff, so you leave me alone." So, but when he squealed, I was like, "Oh, oh, you didn't like that at all." Because no, my buddy's like, yeah, make sure you give them a good misting. They like the mist.
That's true.
So for yeah, I was gonna say for your Pachydax, the ones that you keep, do they like the heavy mist every once in a while, or they seem to be more fond of the drier environment?
Well, to my opinion, it's important to mist them every evening. They prefer to drink from the droplets and from a small water
Hmm.
bowl. But the terrarium itself must dry up completely within a couple of hours at the latest before the morning, before dawn. I think that's really important with Pachydactylus, even more so than with the Leucasium species. And I think if you look at where they live, I think it's normal because between these stony outcrops and such, it gets really dry over there. So they don't get that buildup of microorganisms. At least that's what I think. So I spray them every evening, but the drying part is really important. Actually, last year was a pretty moist year over here. I think it rained practically every day for 7 months in a row. It was really extreme. Yeah, it was. Really see my animals, especially my Pachydactylus, that they hated the moisture. So I had to spray them less often, not less often, but less intensively, especially the small
Hmm.
ones. If you try to rear small Pachydactylus and they don't do really well, then the best thing you can do is just clean the whole terrarium and make sure that it dries up and keep the animals a bit drier. And from then
Yeah.
on,
Okay.
they will do perfectly fine. So that's my experience with
Okay.
moisture.
Nice.
But it can
Nice.
depend from area to area. And this summer, for example, was really dry, so I could add an extra misting now and then, and they really seem to enjoy it.
Okay. Nice. Nice. All right. So let's kind of get into this captive husbandry. So no, you're no getting all right. So you're getting juvies, right? And no, you're going to be growing them up and everything like that. So when setting up these enclosures, what are like the most important environmental factors to get right for you, like in your opinion?
You mean for the juveniles or for the adults?
Well, juveniles all the way to adults. Let's go through that whole life cycle.
I actually start with a very small box, especially for the Pachydactylus. They can be quite sedentary, even the Rugosus. And I just use a simple paper towel as a substrate and add something really small so they can climb and hide under it. I used to add sand in all these small enclosures, but as I said, the moisture can be a really problematic experience at some moments.
Hmm.
And it's just really difficult to have the perfect moisture in these small boxes and to make sure that it stays perfect every day, again and again and again. And by using paper, you can see when it gets dirty. So you have to get it out earlier than normal because, for example, it's more moist outside or something like that, or some crickets died,
Hmm.
because they can be really sensitive with it. Of course, when they start to grow a bit after about 8 to 10 weeks, I put them in a larger box with some sand and more, let's say, small pieces of stone and stuff like that. And they grow until adulthood, and then I think from 10 weeks on, I just keep them like I would keep the adults, but just on a smaller basis. There's just
Mhm.
one really important thing, especially with these small boxes, and that's ventilation. Again, for the humidity, you have to make sure that you have a good ventilation in all your small terrariums, also for the adults, but especially for the little ones. So that's something that I really look for. Yeah, I think those are the main factors to make sure that they reach adulthood. And
Okay,
of
nice,
course,
nice.
good vitamins and minerals, but I think that applies to all geckos.
But yeah, definitely. We all got to make sure they're getting out all the minerals, vitamins. Actually, no. Before, no. What is your supplement routine? Or what do you like to use?
I prefer to use the Repashy vitamins. For me, they are
Okay.
the best on the market, especially in Europe. I alternate a bit with the vitamins of Arcadia. It's
Arcadia.
Arcada,
Okay.
indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
Only from time to time. It also depends.
These ones.
Yes, indeed, those, but the revitalized D3. That's
The
the supplements
revitalized
that I,
D3.
yeah,
Yeah, I have that too. I do the whole rotation of that. That's
yeah,
what's on the Arcadia website. Yeah, and
indeed.
I mean, I also do the Repashy as well. Was this? Yeah, yeah. That's one right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah, my buddy said use the Repashy High D. He uses it for his Goniasaurus. What else? A lot of his Pachydactylus and a lot of his. Well, I don't use it for my Cerdadactylus. My Cerdadactylus, they get like this Reptivite and
yeah,
then a
yeah.
different
Consume
calcium
it.
supplement. Yeah. Someone told me it's like, yeah, no, you gotta do it like this. Otherwise, you're not gonna have a great breeding season for like your Zabrachus. So, I do a whole different regimen for my Cerdadactylus geckos. You said you use, or actually, no, uh, and so as they get older, you put them on sand, right? Now, for say Lucasium, and then like your Diplodac, or not Diplodac, your damn, I didn't forgot already. Your Lucasium and your Pachydactylus. Sorry. Now, what are some like you said? You use like stones for your packies, and then what kind of stuff do you use for your Lucasium for hides?
Okay, for the Lucasium, I use a lot of different stuff. So, like, I use these stony hides, of course, also for the Lucasium, but I also use small pieces of cork bark, for example. I used to have Heteronotia pinoe, the parthenogenetic
Oh, yeah,
species
yeah. I
or
like
at
those.
least the parthenogenetic population. Yeah, yeah. I had some dry leaves in their tank, and they really loved it. They just carried around it, and it was not only a joy to see, but also to hear them going through these dry leaves. So I'm drying some leaves right now. I will probably add those to my terrariums next year. I already added it in the past with my Pachydactylus, but yeah, I don't know. It seemed like a bit off, and they didn't really utilize it. But I'm really hoping that the Lucasium species, because if I also look at the habitats where they came from, they also come from more scrubby and how do I say this? It's not the really true desert, not only stones, but you also have these plants and grasses, clumps of grass. They
Oh,
hide
okay.
under the ground in comparison with Pachydactylus, who don't really do that. So I hope that adding a few dry leaves will, I don't know, spark something in them.
I mean, yeah, give them get a little stimulation, right?
Yeah,
And then and looking for some of those different behaviors that you're trying to get out
indeed,
of them, right?
indeed.
Yeah,
I really hope
and
to see that,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I did with
definitely. I
the
mean,
Heteronotia.
like I said, I hope you get to see that, and document it and see like, all right, well, this worked right here, cool. So now I'm gonna try this for the rest of my Lucasium, and hopefully it works the same way. No, like you said about like humidity and temperatures. So how are you balancing all that within these enclosures? I know you were talking about like air ventilation. Are you doing like a lot of hole? Are you drilling a lot of holes into these to the enclosures, or Are you putting like good big screen tops on them, or what is your method?
I currently use I think it's 45 by 45 by 30 centimeters. So I think it's 18 by 18 by 12 inches Exoterra terrariums. So they have the screen top all over. I think that's ideal. It
Okay.
gets the moisture out really quickly, and you also get a bit of airflow during the summer. So that's something that I really look for in a terrarium. I also have some custom made terrariums, but the person who made them died a couple of years ago, unfortunately. And they also have a lot of ventilation on the top.
Okay.
That's really important for me. And I try to, well, I kept them in plastic terrariums in the past, like the Exoterra flats, with just some UV light on it. It works great, but I think it makes observing them a lot easier if you put them in a glass terrarium. If you can observe your animals more better and more often, then you see you don't only see them more, but you can also change things if you feel that something is going wrong, or if the female has laid any eggs, and you kind of see it immediately, so you can take action and dig them up.
Yeah. So cool. So with your exos, right? Now, are you giving them heat from above, or are you just giving them strictly like belly heat?
I'm giving them belly heat, just a heat mat, and I'm giving them some UV light from the top. I'm using
Okay.
Arcadia. I think for me, I think it's one of the best branches out there for UV lighting. I'm very happy
Yeah.
with that. I use 6% on all of them for
Okay.
about 2/3 of the length of the terrarium at the back. I can see the males and the females. How do I say that? It's not really sunbathing, but
Basking.
sometimes yeah,
Okay.
they get like a leg out or just a tail
So
out just to
cryptic
get some
basking.
UV light. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
True.
Okay, all
That's
right.
it. Yeah.
So with them, because I mean, I for like my stropharis, I give them 12% UV. I mean, for me, like okay, they're open baskers. Like my stropharis just bask
Indeed.
all the time. So I was always told like give them like 12%. Like, and for most arid stuff, give them 12%. So, but you're giving them 6%. Is that just because they're now out a lot and you know, like whatever they get a little bit of UV, they're good to go? Because it's not like a well, I'm not going to say it's not mandatory to give it to them, but like you said, it gives them there's some beneficial stuff for it, right? But you don't give them like that full 12% blasting that sun on them, right?
That's true. There are actually two reasons for that. One, they hide mostly during the day, and I only see them typically basking from time to time, mostly at the beginning and the end of the breeding season. The second
Okay.
reason is because practically all those terrariums are only 12 inches high, except for the more climbing species of Pachydactylus, such as Leucasium. I use 18 to 20 inches high. And there's just 30 inches high isn't really, 12 inches high is just really low. So using a 12%
Okay.
on them can really cause, I think it can really cause sunburns. I haven't
Okay.
really
All
tried a
right.
solar meter or something like that on it yet, but for me it works with the 6%. I also
Okay. I
kept them
mean, yeah, and that makes sense
without
right there.
UV. And we give some vitamin D through their vitamins and minerals on the insects as well. So I don't want to over supplement it either. So
Okay.
that
Yeah.
those are the main reasons.
Yeah. And that makes totally sense right there too. Like you said, it's no, because like you said, it's from the distance, right? So that can
Yeah,
easily sunburn your gecko if they were out a little too long, right? So, what kind of temperatures are you aiming for when you're for like belly heat?
they really like it hot. They can handle 27 to 28 degrees Celsius. I don't know what it is in
Oh,
Fahrenheit. I
don't worry
forgot
about
to
it.
look it up.
I think it's in the upper 80s, I believe. Oh, it's like
Yeah, I
80
think you're
Fahrenheit.
correct. Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Let's see.
At the cool
UV.
side. So they
Yeah, it's like 82. So
82.
mid 80s. Yeah, it's like 82 for like 28 Celsius. Yeah, it's
I
like
always
82.
forget it for
Yes.
some reason.
No,
I
trust
always
me.
have to find a calculator.
Yeah, no, we'll go back and forth just because like I talked a lot to my buddy Jake over at Just Geckos UK. So no,
Yeah,
we've had him on the
Jake.
pod, yeah,
Yeah, I've
quite a few
seen it.
times. So we're always looking back and forth. All right, what is this? What is that? No, he like He'll centimeters. I gotta think in inches. I'll say some inches. He gotta think it in centimeters. So trust me, it's all good. Oh man. Oh yeah. So all right. So you hit him with the 82, and then for like the winter. So it's wintertime over there, right? Getting close to it.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
I give them a
So what
mild
are
winter period. Sorry,
okay? So
I
I was gonna
interrupted.
say, what kind of temps were you going for your inner winter period?
I just give them a mild winter period. I have let's say, some other hobbyists over here that go for a really cold period. That's between 10 and 15 degrees Celsius, or maybe even lower for 6 to 8 weeks. But I had some losses when I used those really low temperatures. So now I just give them a mild winter period between 16, 17 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius, really maximum. And if I notice that they are really active, then I just feed them a little bit. I actually once had a year where I didn't really keep them very cool. I didn't want to breed with my Pachydactylus laterostris because they can be really prolific. They just lay too many eggs sometimes. Well, it was right before the birth of my first daughter. So let's not breed with the laterostris this year. And I just kept them a bit warm during the whole year, but they felt the seasonal fluctuations through the winter, and they stopped and started laying fertile eggs again just as spring came. I even
Okay.
had some Pachydaculus latirostris that I kept colder for a longer time because I wanted to start them breeding later on. And just because of all those seasonal fluctuations in moisture and temperature and from outside, I don't know why they can feel it for some reason, and they started laying
Well, they could
fertile
definitely
eggs,
feel it.
even though,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think a mild winter period is more than enough.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
experience.
I'm going through my winter period right now. So right now it's let's see. I've gotten as low as 17 Celsius, so about 63 degrees for
That's
me.
good.
Yeah. I'm trying to go lower, but it's just not happening. I live in I live in Arizona where it doesn't
Yeah,
get crazy cold, right? I live in a desert, so getting cold is very hard over here. So I have to do all kinds of manipulation, opening windows, turning fans on, getting cool air blasting through every yeah, because I got a toad head of gammas as well, and I was told that they
yeah,
need to get into the 50s, so they might have to just go in
that's
the
true.
garage. Yeah, so they might go in the garage this winter. I'm still iffy if I'm going to breed them or not, but we'll see. But everything else is probably where they need to be. I've shortened lighting cycles right now, so some things are only on for like 4 hours a day. Like a lot of my Stropharis is on for like 4 hours a day. My Chihuahuas are like 4 hours a day now. So then that's it, right? And then they're kind of just chilling. They're slowing down on food. So what about yours? Like the Lucasium and Pachydactylus. Now, do they slow down on food or do they keep going?
No, they slow down quite a lot, but I still feed them a little bit during the winter time, especially if I notice that they keep producing feces and are a little bit active now and then. I think it helps to keep their fat reserves up,
Mm,
especially for the females. I think it's really important to look at your animals during that time and feed if it's necessary. Put out all the lights completely, but I also have some frog terrariums so they get some ambient light for the rest of the room.
okay.
And I turn down the heat completely. But I think 70 degrees Celsius is perfect for Pachydactylus, to my
Yeah.
experience.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Yeah. I mean, I know like right now like do you do that for your like hatchlings and juvies as well, or is that just for your adults?
I only do that for the adults. I
Okay.
think it's
All right.
better to
Cool.
keep the hatchlings at a normal temperature. I know people who do it differently, but I think that you have better results just by keeping the hatchlings at a normal temperature and a normal
Okay.
routine during the winter time. I think they do feel it. They feel the difference in temperature and other fluctuations as well. So they slow down a little bit, but I don't cool them down or anything like that. So they just keep eating. Some of them don't even have serious fat reserves in yet, and I still have some eggs that I and I'm pretty sure that they will hatch somewhere the next couple of weeks. So I can't really just throw in a new hatchling into a winter period. It will definitely
Yeah,
die.
yeah. All right. So, actually, let's get into some of that breeding, right? What is like the we were just talking about like cooling down and everything like that. So, when do those seasonal triggers start for you?
Well, I noticed that many people start to cool down their animals as soon as possible so they can start breeding them in January or February. But for me, it works better to follow the natural cycle. Over here, I start, well, I'm not really cooling them down, but at first I try to give them less light, like an hour every month or so, and I start with that in September. And I actually work towards a maximum of 6 hours of lightning and heat at the middle of December. So next week I just plug out all the lighting and all the heating. And well, where I live, the really coldest time of the year is usually January. So it corresponds with that moment, and they really get that spring feeling when you start everything again in February. So that's where I'm trying to aim for. Sometimes if I see that it's still cold outside, I just lengthen their winter period with a week or so. That's kind of how I try them to work. It's like you said, you have to work with what you have, and what
Yeah, exactly.
your live
Yeah.
depends a lot.
Yeah, like I said, I live in Arizona as a desert, so like I know last season or this past season, like everything started early for me because the weather over here got really warm in January. Like I think I was already in the 70s by the time January started. So everybody
Okay.
started copulating and mating, and I was like, oh, all right, I guess we're getting started. So I started getting eggs really fast. Like I mean, my chihuahuas they give me eggs almost year round, but my chauffeurs, she just started like just rapid firing eggs starting like in like February or something like that. Yeah. So after you like, all right, so those triggers start. Um, Now do you keep your pairs together year round, or do you introduce like the male to the female after winter's done?
I keep them together year round.
Okay.
I don't have negative experiences doing that, except for
Hmm.
maybe one or two occasions with mainly very old females who are kind of at the end of their reproductive life. They live a year or a year and a half after that when they don't produce any eggs. But that last year seems to be very difficult for them. And so at that point, I take out the male and don't put it back in again. But for the rest of the pairs, I just keep them together year round, so they can follow that natural cycle together. Um,
Hmm.
I even feel that the Lucasiums, especially the Damem, not really the Standardineri, but the Damem, they always stay together. They always stay at the same height. If you give two heights at the same spot with the same
Really?
temperature regime, yeah, for some
Nice.
reason,
That's
that's
cool.
my experience with them.
Yeah.
They seem to stay together, and the Pachydactylus too. But I think that's kind of normal. I've heard that in the wild where they live, many Pachydactylus can be found in small groups because the perfect habitat is quite sparse, so they stay
Okay.
together pretty long. That's kind of how I work.
Okay. Now, have you ever witnessed them copulating?
I haven't with the Lucasium. They are very sneaky. Every time when I see them doing something, and they notice me and they just stop right away. But the Pachydactylus are very different. They, like you said, they chirp. That's really
Hmm.
funny, and it's also a territorial thing. So when spring starts and the male starts to chirp during the night, then the other males start calling back. So you have all these chirps from these different species, and I also have some glass frogs that also chirp. So it's a real concert over here.
Nice,
It's
nice.
amazing. I
So,
think it's great.
no, so besides the chirping, is there any other kind of courtships that they do? Like I know, like you see some geckos will like kind of like bob their heads a little bit, do like a little twitching with their bodies and everything like that. What have you noticed from the like Pachydaculus, like male courtship to the female?
I've noticed that with the Pachydactylus, they mostly approach a female from behind, and the female just puts her tail up a little bit like a scorpion, so he can
Hmm.
flick at their preanal deposition, and so he can notice whether she's ready to mate, yes or no. And after that, he goes pretty quickly. He follows her around just like a few minutes, and then just pushing her to the side, and then they mate. With the Lucasium, I've noticed that they rub a bit to the side of their body and a bit. But like I said, for some reason they're very sneaky. They don't like me to watch them, like that I watch them. So I can't really say a lot about that. I try to go in there every evening during the mating season, but I haven't really
You
found
guys
it.
just put a little camera in there, man. Just put a little camera in there so you can watch it all.
That's
I'm actually thinking about getting some cameras myself. Like I do want to put well, I definitely want to put in my incubator just so I can whatever.
yeah.
So I'm not always lifting it up. Are you guys hatching? Are you guys hatching? Just keep looking and keep opening the incubators. Like, let me just put a camera in there so I can see it. Put a little motion detector or something. So see something move, boom, I get the alert. I could go check it out. No, and the same like my strophares, they don't care. Like my male, he don't. If I'm here, I'm looking at him. He's like, dude, sit down, relax. You about to watch a show because he'll go. He don't care. Like I'm like, okay. I mean, same thing
That's
with my
cool.
chihuahuas. Yeah, my chihuahuas don't really care either. Like they're like, whatever, dude. Just put the food in, whatever. I'm handling my business, and close the gate after, or close the what you call it right after you're done. So I was like, all right, cool, done, whatever. But the only ones like I've never actually seen like I have a Haemophilus as well. I have a Haemophilus fasciata. Never seen
Really
him.
cool animals.
Yeah, yeah, really, it's a really dope. I love velvet geckos. That's like one of my passions right there. Like strophares and velvet geckos are like some of my all time favorites. So I was like, I want to get velvet geckos from all over the world. So I got Tanzanians, I got Madagascans, and I got Australians. So I'm still on the lookout for. My buddy says he has some African ones for me, or not for me, but he has some. So those Afrodoras. So I was like,
Really nice.
I'm gonna need some. I'm gonna need some. Damn it, I'm going to need some. But like I said, the Haemophilus are real secretive. They don't like to show out or anything like that. My Blazodactylus, well, they don't show. Well, they fight a lot. Gestation periods for each species of these genuses, or is it generally kind of the same?
Well, the Pachydactylus can be really prolific. I have some Pachydactylus species that sometimes lay eggs every 2 weeks. So that's,
Whoo,
yeah,
that is a
yeah.
baby
So you really,
factory.
absolutely, and you have to look their calcium reserves constantly. So I get a small bowl with some crushed calcium in there. I
Hmm.
usually you have like these big zoom. It's from Zoomit, these
Hmm.
cans
Calcium
without
blocks?
a, right? Yeah. No, it's
Oh,
not a
okay.
calcium block. It's
No.
it's a powder as well,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
it's
Because I know
just calcium without vitamins or anything.
I use this cuddle bone right here. I was
Yeah,
told like
also really good.
yeah, I use it for like mostly my Cerdadactylus, but if I see like my female chihuahuas, because they use a lot of calcium as well when they lay their eggs,
Absolutely.
so I'll shave it off and put it into their enclosure so they can try to snack on it.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Like someone told me about it. A couple people told me about it. The ones I are when I was asking about Sabracus, they told me about it, and then my buddy Justin Munsterman, Legacy Herps, he told me about it as well because he deals with a lot of crazy different kind of agamas that most people don't work with. So he's like, yeah, do this, do that. I'm like, all right, cool, bet. Now you said like so that one, which species is that drops every 2 weeks?
For me, it's mostly the Pachydactylus latirostris, but when it gets really hot, I even get a clutch of eggs from my Pachydactylus rogistus about every 3 weeks or so
Oh
per
yeah,
female.
damn.
So they can be, I don't know why, but they just lay a ton of eggs. And the good thing about the Macrolepis and the Latirostris is that at a certain point they just stop laying eggs. Pachydermus Sketcher does that as well. After about 5 or 6 clutches, even if they follow each other at a very short notice, they just stop producing eggs, even if I keep the male around. But the Pachydermus rugosus, they stop producing eggs, and then at a certain point, they just start again. It's like they have a small
Mm,
pause, and then the female just
yeah.
start all over again, popping up out eggs every 3 to 4 weeks. So it's a bit different in every species, but it's really important to check those calcium reserves and to get that calcium, that little bit of extra calcium in there. They
Hmm.
really use it. And I have in the past kept males and females separately, but they just don't stop. Even if you keep the males separately, they just keep going. If you and if you take out a male, then most of the eggs are not fertile. And I've noticed that if they lay a lot of infertile eggs, that the female, well, it's not like she's doing bad or anything, but females definitely do better. That's my experience if they lay fertile eggs instead of infertile eggs. So
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why I just keep both sexes together all year round.
Okay. Um, what was I about to ask? I know we. So, what about a nesting site? Now, do you give them like a nest box, or do they just lay in their substrate?
Depends a bit on the genus and the species. So for the Lucasium species, those are soft-shelled eggs. So I give them a small nest box with some moist sand. But as
Okay.
I already mentioned before, I think it's important to keep those microorganisms out. So I really watch the female closely when she lays eggs, and I moisten it more frequently. And then about a week after she has laid the clutch, then I just let it dry out completely, just to keep those microorganisms out, and then I re-moisten the same box again, etc. But for the Pachydactylus, they just lay in the sand. Uh, Ground-dwelling species like the Latidostis and the Macrolepis that I mentioned before, they just lay
Okay.
anywhere, mostly under a hide. But um, for the Rugosus, the Gaatje, and well, let's say just all climbing species that I have to provide a couple of centimeters of sand, and you really go in there and dig in the sand, preferably under a hide, and lay the eggs at the bottom of the terrarium. So it's completely
Okay.
different than with the Latidostis group. Let's call it like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now with the because you were talking about calcium reserves. Now, do they get the jowls like some geckos get,
Yeah.
and that you could tell when they depleted their calcium?
Well, it's something to really watch out for. Not with every species, but the ground-dwelling species, and especially Pachydactylus latidostris, is very sensitive to it. So at the starting years, when I first started breeding them, I gave them a lot of calcium in, well, just to make sure that they will reach adulthood, and they would really get these really big calcium sacs,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be problematic also for the males. So at a certain point, when you're rearing up these especially with the Latidostis, but the Macrolepis also have that problem just a little bit, but not as much as the
Mm-hmm.
Latidostis. At a certain point, when they reach subadult size, it's better to give them less calcium just to make sure that it doesn't get too big, when they really stop growing.
Yeah.
I do the same during the winter period. I feed crickets, but I don't provide as much calcium as I do during the breeding season. I think that's really
Okay.
important with the Latidostris. That's not really a problem with the other species too. That's my
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Okay. Nice. All right. So, all right. After they lay the eggs, and then you go and grab them things up. Now, what are you incubate? Like, actually, before you incubate them, what kind of medium are you using to put the eggs in? It's like I use what is this? Where are you at? So, I know I use this hatch right here for most of mine,
Yeah.
and then I use like Pangea hatch as well. What about you? What is your preferred incubation medium?
The Pachylectus can just be incubated in dry sand. I think that's the best medium.
Really?
Um, Yeah, I just
Damn.
just take a box and I put in small bottle caps and I put sand in the box, sand in the bottle caps. I don't moisten them at all with the Pachydeculus, except for the Pachydeculus hatch. So for the hatch, and it is really important to also add a small bottle cap with a bit of water. And to add, well, if it dries up, then you have to add a bit of water again, of course. So to my experience, it is better to keep the Pachydeculus eggs from all the other species pretty dry. But at the
Hmm.
same time, adding a few moist egg boxes in the same incubator uh, helps to have a better hatch rate. It's really
Okay.
strange. It's a bit of a a feeling that you have to get with incubating these Pachydactylus eggs, but generally incubating them drier is a lot better than incubating them wet. To give you an example, during our holiday, my mother had to take care of all of my animals, and she moistened all the eggs a little bit, and none of them hatched. None of them.
Ooh,
Yeah,
ouch.
yeah, it was a really hard one, especially because I had like 15 Bernardi eggs. So I was really looking forward to all these baby Bernardis, and she moistened all of them. So yeah, they were, I had to throw them away. Unfortunately, they started to smell and stuff like that. Even if the sand really dried up completely after she moistened it, but still the eggs were ruined. The Lucasium,
Okay.
on the other hand, I use a 1-to-1 water perlite ratio. I think
Now,
that works best, and I weigh once a week.
do you bury the eggs, or do you like halfway bury the eggs in there, or do you do like kind of like that Sims method where you put it on dry media and then have a wet media, but it's not touching the egg?
No, I just bury the eggs like for
Okay.
50%. I think that
Okay.
I don't know why. I tried the Sims method a couple of times with many species, but I always do something wrong. I can't really put
I
my
mean,
hand on
no,
it,
I
but
do both. Yeah, I do both. So don't
you
worry
do?
about it. Yeah, my Stropharis are like kind of like
Oh,
that
yeah.
Sims method. I think I have one of them right. Or
Oh, you
no, what
do?
is it? Or I'm just looking for. Yeah. So for like my Strophs, I use this. So I have
Oh, yeah.
a little egg tray, so it's not touching the medium, and then all my Stroph eggs go in there. But for like my what is it? I know I got and then for like my Chihuahuas, I just bury the eggs in the Pangea hatch. And then for like my Haemophilus, Cerdaclys, hopefully soon I'll do your Platus Ebenawis. They'll all go like in
Yeah.
bottle cap, dry medium, on top of wet medium. So I do all that. Like I
Should
have
work.
three different ways of incubating over here, and I have like one incubator. That's it. So it's like, man, like, well, I mean, so some stuff doesn't even go in the incubator. Like my Cerdaclys, and whenever I start breeding Euryplatus, they don't go in an incubator.
Yeah.
Only thing that goes in my incubator is like my Stropharis, my Haemophilus. I did get Blazodactylus eggs, but none of them hatched. So, but
Oh,
they
that's
went in the
unfortunate.
incubator. I mean, I think it was just I just got them this year. I did a trade with a buddy, so it was during the breeding season. They might have got thrown off, but she still laid eggs, which is a good sign. Hopefully next year I get some eggs. I get fertile eggs from them. But I didn't realize how thin they were. So when I was looking for eggs, I cracked a few
Oh, really?
in the substrate. I was like, so I had to dig out all my substrate, put in new substrate. So yeah, but
Oh,
they were
no.
really, really brittle. So I was like, oh man. So I have to watch out for that. With like Pachydactylus and Leucasium eggs, are they pretty brittle or are they because I think Pachydactylus are pretty hard shelled, right?
They are. I do had some Pachytectus pairs that I bought in the past that started laying eggs at a certain point that had really brittle eggs. But like I said, I add that bottle cap with a bit of calcium in it, and when the females start consuming that, the second clutch that I get is always a good clutch. I don't know why, but I think the calcium is really important for them. But I've been to South Africa very briefly for only 2 weeks. I didn't see any Pachydactylus because I was there in the early spring and it was still pretty cool. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
really unfortunate. But we saw a lot of small snails, even in the desert. We saw
Oh, okay.
really
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
snails. So I think that's an important calcium
Yeah.
source for them.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So I'll probably like this upcoming breeding season, like probably do put like some bottle caps of like cuttlebone in there, because they'll take up the crescent gecko diet as well sometimes. So
Yeah, yeah, that's
I'll
really,
add
yeah.
maybe some liquid calcium or just more like pure calcium in there or something like that. Maybe I could get some a little bit less brittle eggs from them. I was about to say. Oh, so actually, before we kind of get into the hatching, do you require them to lay infertile eggs before you pair them up?
Sometimes they do. Well, I'm pretty sure you can breed most Pachydactylus and Leucasium species after a year. but for
Hmm.
me, it just doesn't feel right. So I always wait a little bit longer. They don't get a lot larger, but you can really see them chunking up. So I think practically all my females are about a year and a half before I start breeding them. I do have some exceptions, like the Pachydactylus latirostis. Sometimes they start laying eggs from 9 months. I put it,
Dang.
yeah, that's really quickly.
That's Pictus gecko territory right there.
Kinda, yeah. But still, I think I've bred like over hundreds of them, maybe over 200, and I sold a
Wow.
lot of them. But there are still only a few other breeders out there with these Pachytectus latirostis. I'm not really sure why, but when I ask around, most of the problems seem to come towards the calcium deficiency and
Hmm.
also the moisture. I see a lot of people keeping them in a bin-like structure, and of course, if you start spraying in a bin and
Yeah.
you don't have enough ventilation, then you get too much moist, a lot of microorganisms, etc., etc. I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
I'm going off topic. What was your original question? I forgot.
No. Do you require your like female geckos to lay infertile eggs before you actually pair them up with
Ah,
the male? Because I know some people like in the Chihuahua world and stuff like that. They like I want my female to lay eggs before I actually pair them up. That's how I know they're ready. Like sometimes that just doesn't happen. Like you have a 4-year-old female that's been ready to go, just never laid any infertile eggs. But you put a male next to them, boom, you get eggs. So I was just wondering, do you require that for yourself?
for me, it's not necessary that my animals produce infertile eggs. Actually, if they produce fertile eggs 2 times in like a month or so, then I prefer to pair them up with a male because, like I said earlier, I've noticed that it's better for the females to lay fertile eggs than infertile eggs. And I've heard that more than once actually about especially the genus Pachydactylus, that it's better that they lay fertile eggs than infertile eggs. I don't really know why. You can even see it at the females. It's like it's rougher on them to lay
Yeah.
infertile eggs and fertile ones. But for me, it's not necessary. So if they're like a year and a half and they look good to go, then I just pair them up with a male. But I think having them to bulk up is really the most important
Okay.
thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that. So, all right. So, once these babies start hatching, right? Now, do you leave them in the incubator for a certain amount of time, like for like 24, 48 hours so they could get the sheds off? And then after that, what are you moving them into?
I do that completely different for the lucasium and for the Pachydactylus species. I keep the lucasiums in for like 15 to 24 hours so they can shed inside the incubator and just calm down a bit. But like I said, the Pachydactylus are kept, eggs are kept dry, completely dry, and that forms a bit of a problem with the hatchling. So I get it out as soon as I can in a small cricket box with a damp, just a damp
Okay.
paper towel on it. Otherwise, if you leave it in too long, you can have some shedding problems.
Okay. Yeah. Now, do Lucasiums? Now, I think this is just a whole Australian thing. Do they even eat their sheds? I know none of my Aussie geckos eat
No.
like their sheds are just everywhere in their enclosure.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Dude,
think
like
it's terrible.
it's like
I
it's
have
like
to spot
it's
clean
like
more
your
often.
kid that doesn't want to clean their room. That's what it's like. It's like, come on, just eat your shed, fold up your clothes, all that good stuff. Like, come on, like help me help you, and you're just not making it. You're not making it easy. Like, especially when they like leave their shed all the way in the back. I'm like, I gotta go through all these sticks and branches. Like,
True.
I don't know if you, yeah. Oh, I got this one over here. Like, I got so many different branches in it that it makes it real difficult to get to the back. It's like if I hit something, the branch breaks. I'm like, damn. It's like I
Oh
had it
no.
so perfect,
Yeah.
and then now I done messed it all up. But it is what it is. It's okay. So actually, what temps are you actually aiming for when you're doing your incubations?
I use about 30 degrees Celsius. I think that gives it
Okay.
about an even ratio for the Lucasium and for the Pachytectus species. The only exception is Pachydactylus schietje. I've noticed that if you keep them at 30 degrees Celsius, about 90% of them is a male, comes out as a male. So last year I only had 2 females that hatched out. I kept them both for myself, of course, but I also ended up with a bunch of males that practically nobody has any use for. So I
Damn.
try to incubate them. Yeah, yeah. That's really problematic because they are also very small. So they are really a difficult species altogether for me to raise and to breed,
Hmm.
the Gaatje. I tried a different temperature regime this year, but I got a lot less eggs because I lost one of the adult females. I think they're up close at the end of their reproductive
Okay, okay,
life, let's
closer to
call it
age.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. And I only had like five offspring, and I think only one of them is a female, even if I incubated. I think it was like 25 during the night and 29 during the day. So I have to go even lower the next year.
yeah.
And I'm not sure
Okay,
what the
well,
problem is, but it's really problematic with the species.
yeah. Now, do you keep the babies all separate, or do you kind of put them in groups after they hatch?
I prefer to keep all my hatchlings separately. I think that
Okay.
works best. Sometimes I keep like two of the smaller the ground dwelling Pachydactylus species together for a maximum of 1 month.
Hmm.
But I've noticed that at a certain point, at the beginning, I kept them together, every clutch together, two by two by two. But at a certain point, you see some size difference between the two hatchlings. Well, for me, it's better to prevent that and keep them all separately. I know it's really time consuming, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
worth
Oh,
it
trust me.
keeping them
I
separately.
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling. Like I keep everything separate. I don't put anything like clutch mates or anything. They don't go together. I have everything separate. So I it is time consuming. Got to open every little thing up, feed, throw crickets,
True.
water, boom. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Now with the what was I about to say? Are they sexual dimorphic? Can you tell them apart after they hatch, or you have to wait a little bit for that to happen?
I don't have the feeling that you can say it from what the gender is from the moment that they hatch. But you do see some subtle differences when they start to grow up a bit, depending
Hmm.
on the species. For example, I think the Pachydactylus latirostris, it's it's really strange. I don't know if it's sexual dimorphism, but I see that with the females, the outline of the spots on their back is more faint than with the males.
Okay.
It's not
I
perfect
mean,
yet.
it could be. I mean, like literally, I would take a picture of each and just kind of you compare and contrast, like multiples, and see if that's something that's a characteristic. So, I mean, that could be something right there. You never know until you really start testing, right?
Yeah, I tested it a little bit, but to make it even more difficult, their temperature also, well, their coloration also depends a bit on their temperature. So if the temperature is high enough, then they are more lightly colored, a bit like fired up, fired down, or how do I
Okay. Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that? And it also depends a bit on the day and night cycle, stuff like that. I can say it, let's say with 60% accuracy if a small animal is a male with the Pachydactylus laterostris. And I found the same with the Pachydactylus damae. The coloration of the males is more vibrant, let's say the red coloration, and with the female it's more pink coloration instead of the really red. It's not perfect. You can't say the sexes are with 100% certainty just looking at their coloration, but there is a subtle difference between both genders.
Nice. Nice. So, with these babies, like, what kind of food are you feeding them? Like, are you doing fruit flies or anything like that?
Absolutely not. I breed fruit flies
Thank
for
you.
my frogs, but I feed them even to my frogs very rarely. It's like I have them as a backup. And the cool thing
Hmm.
about fruit flies is, but I don't use them for the geckos, so maybe it's not really that important. But if you do breed fruit flies, you can put in a lot of extra things into the medium where you breed the maggots in. And I do getting some, let's say, where you get the red coloration from the carotenoids. I put in a
Yeah.
lot of extra carotenoids into the fruit fly medium, and that's one of the main reasons why I do feed fruit flies to my frogs, but only once to every 2 weeks or so, because they get these extra carotenoids from feeding from the flies. But to my geckos, I think I, there's something about fruit flies. It's really easy. They like to eat it, but they don't really grow as well as they do with crickets, for example. or thermorbia, as they call it, overvicious thermorbia.
Oh, you talking about the a mealworm?
No, not to be mealworm. The fish. Let me look it up. If you have like,
Yeah, yeah, you're good. I was gonna say because I said I don't like feeding fruit flies. I feel like there's no real nutritional value in those. It's just mashed potato mix. So
yeah,
unless you actually make your own mix and add different stuff to it, then I can see it being something. But like you said, you don't see them grow when they're eating the fruit flies, right? So that's why I was
true.
like, it's not a whole lot of nutritional value in those fruit flies, and I mean that's probably why they don't grow as good as they do when you eat crickets or roaches or worms or something like that.
Yeah, that's also my experience. And you can only feed fruit to fruit flies. And for example, crickets or cockroaches, you can feed a whole bunch of stuff. So
Yeah, yeah,
by gut loading a bunch of stuff into those feeders, you get those extras also inside of your animals. And I think that's really important, especially with these small babies from small species. I mean, they're like miniature size, so everything they get in and how it's balanced is really important for how they grow up. I use fish foods, for example, on top
hmm
of fruits and vegetables for my crickets because I feel that providing fish food, you have to think it like at it like this. The fish food is made so fish can live from it whole of their life, feeding practically or only that kind of fish food. So I see a lot of fish owners, not fish breeders, of course, that's a whole different story, but people who just keep guppies and stuff like that, it's like they feed the same thing all of the time. So it
yeah,
has to be a whole food. It's like if you give something to your cat, it's practically always the same thing. So it kind of works like that for fish as well. It's a whole food. So if you give this whole food to your crickets, then you also give it a bit to your geckos. That's kind of
yeah.
how I look at it. And I think
Nice,
that's a
nice.
really important thing. And you can give that to fruit flies, of course. I've looked it up. It's Thermobia domestica, overvisje in Dutch.
I gotta look that one up. I'll look that one up later. I don't know.
It's
It
really
sounds like
popular.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm about to look that one up. I I might have heard about it. I just can't really think what it is in my like what it
Yeah,
looks like right now. But it's
it's
okay.
like if you have these old books and
Uh
old
huh.
paper, for some reason you get these small, really flat animals. They're incredibly fast. And
Fire brats.
yes, thank you. That was the
Okay.
word that I was
There you
looking.
go. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fire brats.
Yes, I know what
Yeah,
fire brats are. Yeah. Actually, you know what?
I was
Jake
pretty
brought
sure
that
you would
up
know it.
when we did a
Yeah,
Cerdadactylus episode. He talked about those fire brats. He's like, yeah, like there's not a lot of people out here that breed fire brats. I know a few, but yeah, like I've heard they're crazy fast, but they're really good for your animals. And
absolutely.
yeah, and
Really
they
good feeders.
destroy the fish food. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are like some of your biggest challenges raising these hatchlings up?
For me, the moisture, ventilation, keeping them clean part is absolutely essential. To give you an idea, last year I raised my smallest Pachydactylus rugosus for the first few weeks in just cricket boxes. And normally I use cricket boxes that have ventilation on all sides. These cricket boxes only had ventilation on two sides. It really was a bad idea. So I had to switch them over really fast. I also had some rearing bins that only had ventilation on the top. It didn't work last year. Of course, last year was an extremely moist year over here, so perhaps it should have worked this year. I think that's really essential. Of course, feeding them every day. I feed them every day, but just really small bits because I also want them to be hungry again the day after. Because if you have a lot of loose crickets around, they will lose their vitamin and mineral content really fast, and they even get stressed a bit if you feed them too much crickets.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important one too. About the moisture, I do spray very lightly every evening. That's absolutely essential with the young ones as well. Yeah, and keep them long enough. I'd say I sometimes see people selling really small animals. I think that's not a good idea. They can react really sensitive. Depends a bit on the species, of course. Latirostis, for example, can be really easy to raise, but Rugosus, one of the more popular species, can be very sensitive to stress. And if you have a small animal that doesn't have a lot of extra fats in its tail, and you move it around and it gets stressed and it stops eating for 2 or 3 days, it forms a problem. It goes to their new owner. They don't have these reserves and they die. If you have a larger animal or a subadult animal, they have these extra. If those animals don't eat for 2 or 3 days, stress related, then it doesn't really form a problem for the next owners. I think those are important things to note. For the lucasium, the stress is absolutely problematic in Standardneri. I don't know why. It's mainly a problem in male animals. They can react really, really, really sensitive to stress. So if you handle your small terrariums or boxes or feed and spray the animals, just try not to make too sudden movements. And especially for those animals, it seems to be that it's better to keep them long enough so you have larger animals to go to the next owner. I have the feeling that I can tell by how stressed they are as a hatchling, coming back to sexual dimorphism. You can't really see it on their coloration, but you can see it
Mm-hmm.
on how they react. The males are so sensitive to stress. I can just tell by how they behave whether it's going to be a male or a female. But that's only for the Standardneri, not for the Damem. But for the
Okay.
Standardneri, that's really
Okay.
important, the stress part.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what I was about to. Oh, so you're bringing up like selling and everything. So where is your outlet for selling? What do you do?
I actually have a lot of people who ask me before any show if I have anything available. So I have some waiting lists, and now and then I do have some extras. I mainly go to the Ham to Ham in Germany.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's like the biggest show over here, or Houten in the Netherlands, just like Jack and Jay. You have these WhatsApp groups, and at the same time
Mm-hmm.
you have a website that's called Terroristica,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
terroristic.com. That's a really good one as well. I mainly use those two channels to sell my animals if they aren't sold yet before, because I have quite a long waiting list for some of them. Yeah, it used to be Facebook and stuff in the past, but it's forbidden now, of course, so we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, you have to word it a different way. You can't say for sale. You gotta be like
Yeah,
looking for a new home. Wants a
it's something like
cricket,
that.
eat crickets and chill at your spot. Stuff like that.
Yeah, but even then, sometimes your post gets flagged for some reason. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that there are also some extremists in these groups,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's really difficult to find them and just kick them out. You don't really know who it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Dude, I mean, damn. I mean, I wish I had a client list like that. Like, people like, hey man, when are you gonna have this? Usually it's like, hey man, how much is that? Oh, it's gonna be 125. Like, I don't sell stuff really expensive, but man, they're like, nope, can't do it. Sorry. I'm like, all right, cool. No, I just keep all my stuff. I don't care.
But that's just the time. I mean, I've been through this period before. I was around with the last economic recession and I bred a lot of crested geckos back then. I still have crested geckos. I think they're a great species. I think they're really cool to have. Same with Auriculatus, Shahua, whatever. And you know what? Everything will come back. It just was, I think this is a difficult time for many people. So, of course, animals don't sell that well. And I think the Lucasium and Pachydactylus are an exception because all my other animals are more difficult to sell. But yeah, it will all go up again at a certain point. And as long as we love what we do, everything will be
Oh
all
yeah,
right.
definitely. Yeah. I mean that's why I work like 3 jobs just so I can make sure all my geckos are fed. Yeah, I work a lot. No, I can even count this. I count this one as a job as well sometimes too. So, all right. So we're coming up to the end. No, definitely wanted to say thank you, man, and for coming on
No
here
problem
just
at all.
talking about these geckos. Like I said, they don't get a lot of love. Well, in the U.S. they don't get a lot of love. I'm not sure how it is over the EU. I know a few folks out here that really do produce good amount. I know like Wally Kern, he produces
Yeah,
Pachydactylus,
well,
Oreophyllus, a ton of them.
really amazing.
Yeah. But you don't really see like if I go on Morph Market, I could probably find maybe one or two Pachydactylus. Very rare, I find Leucasium. I'll find Diplodactylus, but not a whole lot of Leucasium. So for like my closing question is, since being in this hobby, what has been like your biggest failures and what have you learned from them?
For me, my biggest failure was just buying, and adding a lot of stuff. Like I said before, I've been in this hobby since I was a kid, and I used to work at a pet shop during the weekends and the holidays as well at a reptile facility over there. I really loved it, but it was also, back then there were a lot of animals that weren't bred in large numbers, and I just bought whatever I liked. And at a certain point, you see an animal dying over there, over here, and it happens because it's wild caught and blah, blah, blah. And then at a certain point, you see your favorite animal decimating, which was captive bred that I had for like 20 years. And I found out that those animals brought in some parasites into my collection. So I
Hmm.
I had to start all over again. I think it's still a problem today. I took all the animals out, I cleaned the whole room. I threw out all my terrariums. I bought a lot of new stuff, new plants, everything, new terrariums. I checked every animal. They had to have negative feces 3 times before they could go back. I had to treat some animals that did had some parasites. And since then, I'm kind of obsessed by it. And some people say that I'm a bit crazy, but I do have a quarantine period for every animal. And with most animals, it's not really a problem because they don't have parasites because they've been in captivity for many generations. But
Hmm.
I do had some really serious stuff, especially the last year. I came across of three projects that had Cryptosporidium. You couldn't see it by the animals, but they tested positive, so I had to put them down. I had animals that had
Oof.
lungworms. I had
Oof.
more than one animal. Yeah, yeah, really, with coccidiosis, etc., etc. So, you know, if I would give one good advice, is to really do the quarantine period with all your new animals, especially those that aren't in the hobby long, but also from
Yeah.
sources that you don't know. It's something different with friends because, of course, you've checked the animals from your friends before and you know they are safe, and you can trade. I'm a bit obsessed with diseases since then, but I'm very sure it was a hard lesson, but I'm glad with it because if I look back to all these parasites that I found in many of these new projects. And I'm glad that I've kept them out of my collection, like this Cryptosporidium, the two I had. They found two different types, two main types, the Serpentis and the Varani. You couldn't see it by the animals themselves, but I mean, if that gets into your collection, then you have to start all over again. And I think that was my main problem. I just bought animals and just put them in there with the rest of my collection, and it went completely wrong. It was a hard learning lesson, and
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah,
no
man.
one
You
else
definitely
makes
have
the
to.
same one.
Yeah, you definitely have to like source your geckos from people you know, from
Yeah,
trusted sources. Even
indeed.
like the people I trust, I still you still got to put some sort of like at least a 30-day check on them, make
Yeah,
sure their fecals are looking good. It's not watery, it's not runny, things like that. Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a rough lesson to learn right there. But I mean, it makes you a better keeper, though, right? So in the
that's
end,
true.
it made you better. Definitely. I mean, I don't wish that on anybody, but if you have to learn, if
Neither
you have
do
to
I.
deal with it, as long as you learn something from it, and it makes your husbandry even better. So take
If I
that from
can
that.
just add one more thing to that.
Yeah.
What was most surprising is that I found all these more serious parasites not in wild caught animals, but in captive bred animals from some of the more common species. One of the
Oh yeah. Yep.
Cryptosporidium was found in Chahuas, for example,
Yeah.
that I bought.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, the 30-day period when you just buy them is really important. It's not only for the wild caught animals, but indeed for every new animal that you buy. Just do the quarantine procedure and watch them closely, get feces checked. I'm a bit obsessed by it. People think that I go too far with it, but it's
No, I
something that I
mean,
learned
I've
the hard way.
heard of chihuahuas having a lot of parasites in them, and it's usually generally from like, eating the crickets. So,
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, go to your local vet, they'll give you something for it, and then just do it like once every 6 months or something like that. It'll help kick those parasites out. I remember listening to that one on a podcast. Who was it? I think it was like with the Chihuahua Chamber, and he was like, "Yeah,
uh,
I'm sure most of your Chihuahuas have parasites in them. It's just not showing, and they can live with it. It's just get them treated every like 6 months or so, and you'll be, they'll be rocking. They'll be good to go. Uh, but other than that,
yeah.
go
Actually,
ahead.
I'm not really for that. If I because I also had a frog that I bought once, and it had
Hmm.
it had a very serious nematode infection, and the
Hmm.
nematodes didn't really react on the on Panacur, which is the mostly used
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
medication against worms. So just treating them every 6 months gets that. Well, how do they say that? That's immunity from these parasites against these.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's something that I wouldn't advise in all honesty. Yeah, it's a problem, and these benign worms or just some extra ciliates are not really a problem, but yeah, like these chytrids with frogs or cryptosporidium or lungworms, those are some serious badass
Yeah,
parasites
those
that
are
can
those are real serious. Like, so did you end up taking your animals to the vet and having them check it out, or did you do it yourself?
No, no. So the lungworm, the thing is, my mother worked with a vet many years ago, and I
Okay.
also had some experience by working with from my mother because she worked with him, and I got a book from the vet when I
Okay.
think I was like 18 years old, and it's written by someone from the University of Ghent that has a lot of experience with treating reptiles and amphibians. So I do it kind of myself. I get in the feces checked. I have to they need at least two, in most cases three, parasite negative feces before they can go to my collection. And if I find
Hmm.
something, then I just treat by myself, except of course Cryptosporidium, I had to put those animals down. It's untreatable, unfortunately, even up till today. You can treat it. There are some experimental treatments done with, for example, chickens and stuff like that, but you have to keep treating them for the rest of their lives. I don't think that's ideal for the animals and for the
No.
keeper. And you still have this transfer problem. You can always transfer to the rest of your collection, so I had to put them down. But I kind of do everything myself.
Okay. Nice, nice. All right. So we're coming up to the end. So, Joffrey, where can everybody find you at, man?
I have a small, really small Instagram page. I'm not really active on it, to be honest. It's called
Yeah,
herbs
man, you gotta start
dot
posting more
at dot
geckos,
home.
dude.
I know, I know. And you know what the frog people say? That I have to post more frogs and less geckos.
Oh man, no, no, no. Well, just post them all. That's what you need to do. Like every time I go in there, I'm like, man, you got some great stuff. I'm just looking on there, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, dude, yeah. Because I think I
Thanks
remember
for
I
the
tried getting
compliment.
you on uh much earlier in the pot, the pot when we were doing this podcast and stuff. I think I really did try to get you on. I think you said something about it was like a difficult time. I think you just had a kid,
Yeah,
or like
yeah. It was my
just
youngest daughter. I think, yeah,
yeah, okay,
yeah. She's still
yeah,
a pain in the ass sometimes, which makes it difficult to me to take good pictures, put them on the Instagram account. But it's there,
yeah.
and I kind of answer most questions, and if I forget, just give me a shout again because I probably
Hmm.
didn't notice it. But that's where you can find me,
All right,
herbs.at.home. I might change the name at some point, but that's it.
all right. Well, like I said, thank you for coming on, talking about
Thank
these
you.
geckos, man. Like it was a blast. I loved it. I love hearing about all this stuff and just hearing other people's experiences with them. Like I said, I got no one species of Pachy. I don't have Lucasium. I have Dipplodactylus. I mean, they were born together, but now they're not. So I need to get some Lucasium in my life very soon. I just got to find somebody over here. I think I might know somebody, so I might be talking to him
Oh,
pretty
that's
soon
good.
about that stuff. But other than that, man, definitely have a great night. I said I'm about to get ready for this birthday party. To everybody else, we'll see you guys in the new year. This will be the last episode for December. So make sure you guys are checking out Wally's 12 Supreme Days of Christmas. Check out Monster Box Enclosures on IG, webpage, Facebook, everything. Check out Anthony on Cold Blooded Gems on Palm Street. I believe we're gonna be doing giveaways on there. Check out New Cow Podcast on YouTube. Check out pretty much everything. Was it Gecko Exchange Podcast on YouTube? Check out Putting in Work Podcast. That's on YouTube as well. Other than that, everybody have a great morning, afternoon, or night. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Yo, creeping in the dark, life nocturnal, dark and dark, both paths arboreal to terrestrial. Sticky toes gripping forest through desert explore. Listen close, Gecko Podcast, that's knowledge galore. Reptile talk, host Anthony and Jason. Trade secrets flow, no time wasted. From tropics to town, it's sight raining. With every chat, reptile game changing. Escaping heat waves, tan under rays, desert sand echoes, sun blazing days. Little hustlers, camouflage a maze, catch them speaking wisdom, the wild on replay. Reptile talk, host Anthony and Jason. Trade secrets flow, no time wasted. From tropics to town, it's sight raining. With every chat, reptile game changing. Shadows unseen, master of the skies, chameleon dream. Blizzard tails flip, script getting clean. Gecko Exchange, true reptile fiends. Reptile talk, host Anthony and Jason. Trade secrets flow, no time wasted. From tropics to town, it's sight raining. With every chat, reptile game changing. Scuttling through the leaves, shadows unseen, master of disguise.